Hello, Maverick traders, and welcome out to your daily currency recap. This is Ankit here, and here we are wrapping up the day on the Tuesday, October the 7th. Price actually looks great in the markets, and we had some big moves, so let's get into it. As always, we'll be taking a look at broader market analysis, take a look at what's happening in the currency baskets, take a look at things on the news front, and then we'll take a look at some possible setups ahead. Let's get into it.
Do you want to be a professional trader? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop trading company that will pay you for trading with our capital. Trade our capital and keep 70 to 80% of the profits. We are looking for traders just like you that are hardworking and motivated. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to see if you have what it takes. That link takes you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position available, and you read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have at this point. After watching the video and reading the FAQs, if you're interested, fill out an application, then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video, and then schedule an interview with one of our traders. Are you our next trader?
So jumping into the market analysis, let's just jump right into the headlines and the numbers. And we have this government shutdown that continues. So now that shutdown really hasn't had a big impact on the markets, but there's one thing that's missing is the key economic data. So that data continues to be, delayed, and until the shutdown is over, we are going to have this vacuum where there's not a whole lot of data, and then suddenly in a very short period of time we're going to have all the data get published. So that just continues, and keep an eye on the headlines, and when that changes, then we have to look at the schedule and see when those things will be released. Now, meanwhile, we are getting some very good price action, especially in the Japanese yen. This is a big moving week for the Japanese yen in a while. I mean, this is the biggest losing week for yen since going back in like March and April. So that's a pretty good thing. And here we are with the dollar that is actually outperforming here. So the narrative here continues to be what we discussed in the currency room over the weekend. We are, and that's exactly what we're doing, is just following the narrative, and price action is supporting that narrative. Now, when we take a look at the numbers here for this week, or for today so far, you can see that where the big movement is the dollar and the yen. And that was been the best currency pair that we've been trading. Even for the last 3 weeks, we've been trading this dollar yen. But, recently, since the last week, we're actually having some really good movement here and really good profits in dollar yen. Now, you can see that the middle of the thing where the euro Swiss franc yen, that continues to be, a not moving, a basket that we're looking at. So really, focus on things that are moving and not focus on things that are not moving. And this is the basket that's just not really a whole lot of movement there. At the same time, we are going to see if that any key level breaks, but so far the price action continues to be choppy. Now, apart from the dollar, you can see that the CAD is following suit. So remember, CAD looked so weak. We got into some really critical support level, and now we're getting a nice little bounce over from that level. So we talked about correlation, and this is one of the reasons that dollar looking good, and so we are seeing that same thing in the CAD. Now, if you are looking at the Aussie's kind of flat for the day, and we are seeing a slight pullback in the Kiwi. Now, if you take a look at Kiwi had been one of the worst currencies for the last month or 2 months. So we're getting a nice little bounce here. But remember, we have the RBNZ rate statement tonight. So we'll take a look at both case scenario for Kiwi to be either on the better side or the worse side. Now, when we take a look at broader markets, you can see that broader markets are pulling back today. S&P down slightly. So is the World Stock Index, and cryptos, you can see, continues to be tied to that risk on and risk off. We got that big move in crypto last week, and that seems to be fizzling out a little bit here. Gold continues to be the big performer here. Almost, we crossed that 4,000 mark. So that's a key number here for gold. Going from 2,000 just 4 years ago, now doubling up to 4,000. Here we are, oil catching in the lights bounce over there. So. Decent moves across the board, and you can see Ethereum taking the worst hit. So is the Bitcoin Cash, and then Bitcoin itself is holding a little bit better. But just remember that you're playing these markets with these themes, and if the broader markets take a little turn, then that is going to affect the cryptos as well. Now, when we take a look at the markets, now the question is anything changed? Well, nothing really has changed, but we talk about key levels. Now, this is the key level where we broke out of. As you can see that now we are trying to retest that level. If this level breaks, then I won't be surprised that we get down towards this area. Now, this is where we could experience a shorter term risk off move in the markets if we give up that level. Now, markets are continuing at these all-time highs. And even though if it does pull back, it's still a healthy pullback. So keep an eye and see if this level gives up, then we probably see a bit of a risk off move in the next 20 to 48 hours. And at the same time, keep an eye on the headlines if there's any development that comes along on this shutdown. Now, when we look at the news events, you can see there's all the US data that got pushed towards this week, and then that's still unclear if that data will be released, the US jobs data. So tonight we have the RBNZ, and I'm actually paying a close attention to this RBNZ rate statement. Now, this RBNZ rate statement, you can see that this thing, they're expecting a rate cut. And remember, markets already priced that in ahead of time. So where is the big move going to come? If that big move is going to come, if the statement that we get, if there's any surprise factor from that statement. Are they more dovish? Are they less dovish? Remember, we had a very bad GDP print. And since then, the Kiwi has been the worst. But in the last 2-3 days, Kiwi definitely had, bounced off. So the big question really is this a bounce that is going to sell off? Or is it the bounce that's going to reverse? So that's something we'll be taking a look at it. There's FOMC meeting minutes. Again, not a big surprise. We already know where the Fed is. We already know where the market expectation is, which again continues to be pretty heavily on the on 2 rate cuts. But now without the data, not a whole lot has changed. So we're just going to be really data dependent whenever that data gets released. Now we have the Canadian employment report on Friday. So there's still some numbers coming out. But again, we want to take it a day by day. And then also look at what's really moving. And, yen is the currency that's moving. We had a great trade on dollar yen and some other yen pairs. Now, in the next 24 hours, we're going to be specifically looking at some of the Kiwi pairs and see where is the next big opportunity. Now, from a velocity score perspective, you can see pretty much dollar CAD sitting at the top. Even though the pound Swiss franc is there at a +2, I am not really a big fan of buying some of these, European basket that kind of looks overextended, but at the same time, they're not really moving as much. So we'll wait till they start to give us a good percentage move. Now, Aussie did pull back a little bit. Here we are with the Kiwi. So I think what we need to take a look at in the next 24 hours is specifically the Aussie Kiwi currency pair. Outside of that, we have Euro that's underperforming. So out of the Euro basket, the European basket, that's the pound, the Swiss franc, and the Euro. Actually, I like the Euro the best as on the short side. So we'll take a look at some European charts as well. And then yen, again, being the worst performer, it's a -3. And we'll discuss that some of the yen currency basket here shortly. So let's go ahead and jump into currency baskets and take a look at things one by one.
Do you want to be a professional trader? Maverick Currencies is the oldest US-based Forex and crypto prop trading company that will pay you for trading with our capital. Trade our capital and keep 70 to 80% of the profits. We are looking for traders just like you that are hardworking and motivated. Click the apply link on the top right of this video to see if you have what it takes. That link takes you to a 4-minute video that explains the trader position available, and you read a list of FAQs that answer pretty much all the basic questions you have at this point. After watching the video and reading the FAQs, if you're interested, fill out an application, then you'll watch the full-length recruiting video, and then schedule an interview with one of our traders. Are you our next trader?
So here we are in the currency baskets. Let's just take a look at first one. It's the Japanese yen. So I've been very active in Discord, and hopefully everyone is following. And I've been kind of keeping everyone posted on what's going on and what is their outlook. And I talked about this key support level that we have broken, and pretty much since then we are seeing a continuation. So every time we have a gap, the big question we always have is the gaps going to get filled, or is it going to continue weak? And you can see that in this case, we had a nice little bear rally here, and then we have another base over here. So there's definitely, more opportunities that presented itself off this break, and it continues to be moving on that direction. One thing I did point it out was that take a look at weekly chart, and you can see that, after this big support break, if you look at where we are with the next lows, there's definitely a lot of room for yen to fall. If you take a look at yen has been very restricted this year. But then if you really look at last year, you can see yen had some massive moves, both on the upside and the downside. Like there has been a lot of movement in the yen, which, in the last few months has been pretty sideways. So I think this is a good key break, and this is where, for a continuation pattern, this is where, when things are more directional, this is where we want to use more legging in strategy. We want to take a look at things that are, best pairing with the yen. Right now, all the yen pairs are looking pretty good. But, as we pair things up, I think there's a lot of good setups that we have, and really good risk to reward on some of the trades here. So that's really what we have with the yen. But I also do like the dollar. And remember, one of the currencies that I've been talking lately about is the dollar. And is this dollar going to break out? So, when I go on the daily chart, you can see that this is a key level of resistance. And I talked about this in the currency room, that this looks more like a bull pullback to me, rather than, this is going to fall right back low. So what we discussed is that, hey, if this breaks below, we might change our outlook. But as long as it holds this level, we want to continue following that. And here we are back to the highs here. So what I'm looking for is a further break above that level. And that is going to open up a lot of opportunities in some of the dollar currency pairs, once we clear that level. One thing to kind of note is that once we clear certain key levels, you can see that, like that is where, you get a lot of clarity. You get a lot of continuation, very little pullback, because that's just a true breakout. So that's one thing I'm looking at in the dollar here. You can see that we have been restricted. We have been pulling back. But, now yen being the worst currency out there, we have this negative correlation. Now, yen being the worst is really helping the dollar. And I think this is the point where I can make a case that maybe perhaps dollar could rise if it gets above this resistance area. Now, if I look at other currencies, am I interested in Swiss franc? I'm not. If you look at percentage change, even though this looks nice on a trend, I just don't love it from a percentage perspective. This is not really where the big moves are happening. Look at that. It's like a 0.9% up. I'm not interested in that. Here we are with the euro. As you can see, that euro, this is a level I've been kind of watching. And you can see that it reluctantly has been holding this level. It's right at this moving average here. And I really want to see it breaks below this area, because I think that's where the whole euro can come under pressure. So that's the one thing I'm looking at. When I go on a 4-hour chart, you can see that there's a bit of a consolidation here. But as long as it stays below this level, I don't mind taking a bit of a shot on the short side here. The British pound continues to be, an erratic currency, I would say, because when you zoom out and look back, and you're like, oh my, like this currency is not really going anywhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Look at that. There's 6 piercing out there. And, this is where it actually, from risk to reward perspective, it makes more sense to, kind of look for a reversal rather than look for a breakout. So today, again, we had a pretty aggressive move from there, and then we had a bit of a recovery. I just don't have a strong call on the pound here. I'll rather play that range until I get that breakout. The Canadian dollar has done really well, and you can see that from a daily chart. We talked about that very important level of support, and this is one of the reasons why I emphasize a lot on these levels, because those are the levels where some people get caught off guard, because you're like, everything looks good, but if the level is pretty strong, then it is likely to find some support at that level. So right now it is above the 20, below the 50. I would say that the CAD continues to probably continue following that trend. Aussie has been one of the best currency, and you can see that this thing, from a technical perspective, it still remains bullish. Above the 20, above the 50, taking a bit of a pause. Now, Kiwi is the one that it's the one where you're trying to decide, like, is this a bear rally to short into? Because from a technical standpoint, this is a perfect bear rally. This is a support. It broke the support here. Now it did rally up to that level, pierce higher, and then here we are falling back lower. So I think this is the one where, if you're looking for this to completely roll over, this is the one way, you could start from like a half a position and see if it goes that way. But usually around these levels where what you want to watch out for is that you don't want another candle comes over here, because then that would be a more bullish candle. As long as it stays below this area, then I think we could have a decent chance for this to roll over. Now, for this determination, you have to really take a look at Aussie Kiwi, because I talked about Aussie Kiwi, and one of the things that I'm very cautious about Aussie Kiwi is this level. As you can see, this level is almost 10 years of a resistance here. We have tested a couple of times, and it has rejected it over and over. Now, as you can see that we rejected that level pretty nicely here on this beautiful bearish candle. And then here we are getting a bit of a rally here. So the question is that, could we see a bit of a lower high and then lower low? Now, if that happens, then I think we could see the Kiwi outperform the Aussie. Now, if that doesn't happen and it goes all the way up, then maybe we could also entertain the idea that it's going to break out higher. But for that, we need a confirmation. So you can see that we are kind of at a crossroad on the Kiwi here, which can really go either way. So I'm not looking to trade the initial price action, but I'm looking to trade the follow through and see what kind of follow through movement that we get, because Kiwi has already been the weakest currency there, and what we're looking for, either a break lower on Aussie Kiwi that will confirm that the Kiwi is actually strengthening. Or if the Kiwi actually weakens and breaks above this level, then Kiwi is likely to roll over from there. And then I think we need to maybe take a look at Kiwi on the short side more than the long side. So that's the one thing I'm looking at, one pair for tonight. I'm also, we've been riding this dollar yen trade. Remember, I talked about this. I got long off the support area, where it kind of made sense from a risk to reward perspective rather than finding a beautiful setup. It did made a higher high. It got towards that level. We got long over here. Then you can see that it went from like almost 147 now up to 152. So that's a monster trade there, about a 500 pip trade. Now this thing has moved nicely, and like I said, this thing is not only with that gap higher, with that little pullback, 149, it's already up another 200 pip off that level. So the question really comes is that what's the level of resistance? As you can see, after some big chop and big areas to watch, it's going to close at the highs of the day. Of course, nothing goes parabolic or goes linear straight away. Like it could pull back, it could sideways, but now prior resistance is now the support. And the next level of resistance that we're looking at is, I think, the next level I'm initially looking at is around 154 area, which is around this. There's definitely room for this to run even further. But, if there's any pullbacks happening, that's the time where you scale back, and when things start to move, then that's where you want to take advantage of those pullbacks or even basis patterns. The other pair that I discussed in the Discord was the euro dollar. This is another pair that I'm just, it's a very similar to that dollar yen. I just like it from a risk to reward perspective. You can see this is a beautiful rollover bear rally here. And if the dollar is really strengthened, take a look at it. It's sitting at the close of the day, and, we're below the moving averages. The next level of support is about 116. But after that, the next level of support goes down to 114. Now, that would be a trade, if we get a further continuation or even a big breakout in that dollar basket. So that's the one thing I'm looking at. So these are the pairs that, I might start halfway through, like a half a position, and then kind of build it up as it continues to move in our way. Very similar to what we did with the dollar yen, where we started off and we just continue to move our stops. So I think dollar yen still looks pretty good. I like still the target, but I won't be surprised that it does pull back, maybe a bigger base. So keep an eye on, volatility, ATR. Like this could pull back 50 pips here and there, but if depending on what time frame you're using, you have to kind of keep that in mind. If you're going for a bigger move, then I need to go trade on a higher time frame. But in the shorter term, we can see some pullbacks or something along the way. But with this clearing that key level, The smaller the pullback is, the smaller the retracement is, the better the chances it has to go even further higher. So those are the things that I'll be paying close attention to. So that's pretty much what I have on my watch list. Like I said, it's already been a great week so far. It's already Tuesday, and based on the data that we will get, hopefully we can catch some better opportunities, especially on some of the Kiwi pairs. So just to wrap things up over here, dollar yen pairs, the dollar and yen pairs, those are the ones that will look the best here. RBNZ base has been tonight, so watch out for the Kiwi currency pairs. And then again, keep a close eye on the headlines and keep a close eye on any development around that shutdown. But meanwhile, just continue to trade with your plan. When things are falling in that plan, scale back. When things start to move in your plan, then that's where you want to get a little bit more aggressive. Thanks everyone for joining. Happy trading. See you the next one.